Hey everybody, welcome back to the Woodworking Talk Show. I thought I'd change it up a bit this episode and talk to somebody who isn't a YouTuber, but whose long career has shaped much of what we see on YouTube today. Long before YouTube, back in a simpler time, back before people even had an email address, Roy Underhill set the stage for what a woodworking show might look like. Roy has been the host of the Woodwright shop for 39 seasons, beginning in 1979, making it the longest-running how-to series on PBS. And you thought Bob Ross had a long run, huh?
I cut down the happy little tree, I'm afraid.
Right. Did you ever have a chance to meet Bob Ross, by any...
I did not. We did a birthday program for him, all the folks on PBS, and I had a giant log, and I put it in the middle of the shop, and I got a paintbrush, and I started painting the happy little tree in the middle of my shop. And I don't know if that gag ever got to him or whether it was well received. But that's as close as I got there. Yeah. Quite a thing. Yeah, we started back in the days of silent television. It was
right. with the title cards coming up every now and then to explain what you were doing.
Exactly. Yeah. Ouch.
Roy's show has always appealed to kind of the everyman. The iconic title sequence for the Woodwright shop visually evokes a longing for a return to simpler times, showing Roy carrying his handmade toolbox and walking amidst the hustle and bustle of an urban setting to his quaint rural workshop. The show is an insight into 18th and 19th century hand tool woodworking, rife with history and philosophical lessons from the past, and how those lessons can guide us into the future. Roy spends each episode making a project by hand using axes, froes, draw knives, and chisels. Even the tools themselves are handmade. Using old-time hand tools can be physically demanding work, and watching Roy huff and puff and sweat his way through these projects, perhaps while simultaneously discussing Thoreau's Walden or Charles Dickens, is always half the fun. Hey, the Woodwright shop is a learning experience about traditional woodworking that even non-woodworkers can enjoy. But mostly, the success of the Woodwright shop is due to Roy Underhill's engaging personality and his ability to carry a show for, about 25 minutes, often just by himself. In addition to the show, Roy teaches hands-on woodworking from his Woodwright School in North Carolina and is the author of numerous books on traditional woodworking. Hey, Roy, welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve, thank you. All right. Glad to be here. Now, you mentioned sweat and tears, but not the blood. What happened was the director kept yelling, cut, cut, and I didn't know what he meant, and just aimed for myself.
There did seem to be an excessive amount of minor injuries on that show.
Yeah, well, it's true, because they were all shot in one take, straight through. So there was, you got to keep going, and you got to move fast. And if you're a second over, it's no good. You got to end, that's it. So that's how we kept it cheap enough to stay on PBS. They told me it was cheaper to run the Woodwright shop than it was to run the test pattern. So that's why we were there. And I got to say, so Steve, you said non-woodworkers. I don't know that any human being is a non-woodworker.
Really?
So I believe it's so deep. Yeah, I think it's so deep in everybody. We evolved as human beings working wood. And our understanding of, the physics of the planet, I think, is based on understanding the grain in wood and how to make things with it, how to work with it, and how to use it at its strongest. I think it's that deep.
Yeah, I actually, speaking of that, you had a TEDx talk I saw. This was back in 2011. It was sharing the value and ingenuity and living in the present. And I thought that was an interesting choice of words about using traditional hand tools and talking about the history of these things and how that, and I even mentioned that in the intro, and how that relates to the present and can lead us into the future.
Well, the Woodwright shop. It was never set in the past. It was set in a wiser future that I had hoped would come, where people working by hand. So they're getting stronger. The planet's not getting damaged, and they're just honoring their body and the materials of nature and the simple. So that's what I wanted to see, and it was not set in the past, even though it drew on the past. That was a fun TEDx talk. I was ranting on about a radio interview I had done where they said, "Oh, Roy, tell us about the past and what it was like." And the guy talking about the future was talking about more lithium ion. I just kept saying, "Man, that's not the future. The future is muscle, man, like a bicycle." You could... What better thing is anyway? You see, now you got me started.
I was hoping we'd get
my
it.
rants.
Yeah, we could just start right in on the rant.
We'll be rant powered. Yeah.
I think that over your career, it's pretty clear that you see. I don't know if you probably would go as far as considering an ethical distinction between working with hand tools and the constant proliferation of power tools.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think it is. There's an ethical choice there. And, I hate to say it, it's like whether you're going to go, let's go snowmobiling or let's go cross-country skiing. Which is better for you and for the planet? Snowmobiling is great fun. Any of these things is just a gas, but there is an ethical difference. So we have to start thinking about that. I'm thinking about it. Here I am. Look at the carbon debt I have built up over my decades, putting stuff up there. That's now how am I going to remove it? Oh man, that's what I'm facing.
Do you think that we've reached a kind of a tipping point where we can still fix this, or especially now with kind of the rise of social media and I kind of have a feeling that now, and we're seeing this among, I hate using the term social media influencer. We see these guys and women who are building these basically mega shops filled with more and more power tools. And a lot of these things are based on all of these brand deals and sponsorships. And it all comes down to a lot of money being poured into these things for people to just watch and consume. It's all about consumer. It's
entertaining. It's like watching a monster truck rally instead of woodworking, usually. Listen to me. But the point of the Woodwright shop, at least, was an anti-consumerist perspective on life and a more humanistic approach to it. And cultural as well, the history of these things, this ancient, wonderful tradition we have of working wood with our hands. Who wouldn't want to be a part of that? So it's a tough one because it is so much fun. And I got to, and let me confess, using the power tools is a good thing for you if you are losing your strength, just an endurance, getting older, and you're trying to keep up with this. And there's a great argument. I talked to, it was Dan Mack making rustic furniture, and he used an electric tenon cutter that would, cut the tenons on the ends of his stock. I said, well, you should do that by hand. And he said, well, because I want to spend my time making furniture, not making tenons. Oh, that's I got to get it. So, it's a tough one. It's being a human here.
I saw a 2005 article that I guess it was an interview with you on Woodworker's Journal, and you described your woodworking as subversive. I love that.
Subversive. Yes.
I love that description.
Subversive woodworking.
Do you still feel it's subversive?
Well,
You still
that's
feel
why I
that
have
way?
my school. That's why I have my school. If we were there, instead we're up where I answer everybody's emails. You'd see that it's got big windows out front, out onto the street in an old downtown, and people and children walk by to the ice cream parlor on one side or the bar behind me, and they look in and they see people working with hand tools. And that's subversive woodworking. You got people who are, never thought about this. And they're looking in and seeing it, and they go, wow, that's there. That's real. You can do that. They see you sawing, and kids see this. It's great. You're trying to subvert the direction that we are headed, which is, consumerist, energy consuming, all those things that I rant and rail against and try not to do, but do anyway.
It's got to be intriguing for people walking by, looking through that window of your shop there and seeing that, because I think for most people, their exposure to anything being built is a guy coming to their house to build a new deck or something, and it's all about power tools. People are just not accustomed to seeing anybody work with hand-powered equipment anymore.
No, and a lot of it is so ingenious. We just finished a class making spring pole lathes. I had 8 people in the class making lathes, and that's a machine we use, but muscle powered. To make it, we were using on occasion foot powered Barnes mortising machines from the 1870s. So it's just a foot-operated chisel. You put your foot down on the leverage, cuts it, and it's ingenious. You say, wow, where did that go? In the front of the school, I have a treadle-powered table saw made by Barnes in 1874. So this is 2 years before Custer goes out and gets nailed there. 1874, there's a foot-powered table saw. Well, we've had it, it was 150 years now. My gosh, we could do, think about where the bicycle was in 1874. And if we had continued to improve these machines to the degree that we've improved the bicycle, what wonderful things we would have. And the quiet, wonderful foot chisel going up and down, the boring machine that gives you both hands to work. That's what inspired me many decades ago. I was living up in the mountains of New Mexico in a ostensible commune.
You were kind of community. A hippie, weren't you?
Yeah, a major beatnik. Oh yeah, they were living in a teepee up in the mountains of New Mexico. This is the mid-'70s. And this was the first of the energy crisis. Living on the land was a big thing. The whole Earth catalog, all of this Woodstock Nation kind of thing. So yeah, that was quite formative for me. And seeing these machines, and at that time, boy, that set the seed. And I said, that's what it's about. So at least for me.
I kind of feel like we're in this dual approach to woodworking right now, where I'm seeing people who are getting really excited about literally robots in workshops where they're like completely, beyond CNCs, these are like robots that are like sanding and doing all of these things. The woodworker is now like almost relegated to just typing on a keyboard for much of the process. But at the same time, I'm seeing a pretty big resurgence in hand tool woodworking. So I think that, I don't know if one is a response to the other or which way that goes, but I do see that I think people want to have that sense that they're actually doing something with their hands.
Yeah, and both are great. I mean, it's just because I play acoustic guitar doesn't mean I don't like electric guitar as well. So one thing is this is just what I do. This is my area of interest. But I admire all of these creative endeavors people do. And let me say, I have a robot at the Woodwright School. Once I sweep up the big shavings, a little Roomba gets in there and goes after everything else. And if it was better at its job, I would be that much happier. So keep on with the improvements in the robots. I've got a use for it. It's funny, we had one of the things that's made hand tool woodworking proliferate and possible, and the manufacture of hand tools, again, by small manufacturers, is, of course, the internet. People can find customers. They can find the products. They can find the lessons. So we can just find each other so much better than we used to be able to. So it's a paradoxical future. We just gotta choose the right elements to make it wonderful.
Let me
and
go
lasting.
back. Let me go back to before you were a hippie living in New Mexico in the 70s. What was your childhood like? Did you do any woodworking or building of things when you were a young one?
Yeah, I always made things. And I think I told you, actually, in my little basement workshop, I grew up in Washington, D.C., and or a little suburban, northwest Washington. Down in the basement, I had a little workshop, and I think when I was 11 years old, I would do an imaginary TV show and turn to the camera and say, "Now, don't let me catch you doing this, but there's a way to get this done quick." So who knew? But yes, lucked out. I always enjoyed making things as a kid, and fortunately, I did not fall into another profession or working for someone else that would have been taken me away from that. So the luckiest breaks I had were the jobs I didn't get, and thank goodness.
I think that the last time we talked, didn't you say you were studying theater at the time?
Oh, I was build sets and so forth, and I studied directing.
Oh, okay.
I did a huge amount during my undergraduate years as a set building. So anything you made only had to last 2 weeks and look good, past the fourth row. So that was it. But also, lots of prop building. I say quickly, we needed Dracula's castle. And I needed the gargoyles that support his fireplace. Well, I could knock them out fast. The swords for Beckett, I could make those real quick. And so I was hired even as a freshman to work and just do building things. It's great. So also a good way to meet girls, too. So it worked out well being in showbiz.
So I guess you were at the university when you it sounds like kind of happenstance that you stumbled upon doing a show. That was that based on you were doing a thesis or something, and you that was going to be your show?
Well, now this is in finishing graduate school at Duke was in environmental science, and so I'm exposed to forestry and environmental science, and I was exposed to global warming as a issue. 40 years ago or more now. And so we were really aware of what was going on at that time. It was kind of, oh crap, here it comes. Troubles, there's a slow train coming. Well, it's picked up speed since then.
Yeah, it's a good thing we solved that problem, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, man. But, seriously, at that time, the science was to say, we are in an uneasy balance because the CO2 is having one effect and the particulate pollution, the smoke and soot, is having another effect. So we're getting a shading effect and a greenhouse effect simultaneously, and they're balancing each other out. We think. That was the only question about it at the time, and we've seen that's been answered. we haven't been balancing it out with the soot. But nevertheless, there was my work there had supported professors, and I was able to do my work in early technology and culture with a small c. So making the culture of work in wood and its historical development. And there was thank goodness, a thing where I didn't have to write a thesis. I could do a presentation, a live presentation. Well, I had enough, showbiz background from undergraduate that I knew how to put a show on, and did that. And it was outside. It was great on a hillside. I was swinging axes and using boring machines and getting the whole thing going. And somebody afterwards, I don't know who, said, "Hey, this would work on TV." And that was bing. And that was really the beginning of the Woodwright shop. And so started. It took probably about 4 or 5 years to get that lucky break to get it on, but that's where it came from.
You had it on for a couple of years there before PBS picked it up. Is that right?
Just 1 year, yeah. And then PBS picked it up. Yeah. Just that 1 year. It ran in North Carolina, and then it ran nationally. So it was quite an adventure. Yeah, lucked out. Lucky breaks.
Was that always the format from the very beginning, that you would shoot that in basically real time without any editing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because
it's cheap. It's cheap. So it's in camera. It's live editing basically. There's it's the 4-camera shoot or 3-camera shoot. You have 1 cover camera and 2 close-ups, and the director is switching between those cameras in real time and talking to the videographers, through the headsets from the control room, telling, tighten up, wake up, pan left. All right, he's going to jump up now. Oh gosh, I hope he doesn't say that stupid joke again about his half brother. Oh, there he goes. So that was the director all the time with me was Gary Morton, and he passed on this last year. So I lost a good friend and colleague. Yeah.
It's kind of like shooting a sporting event. It sounds like,
Oh, it is. Yeah. The guys who worked with me, the best shooters were sports shooters. Cause I was, I'm jumping up and down, I'm turning over here and there, and they got to follow the action, and then live editing, as we go. So, then it's done and it's gone. So a little bit different, and not a lot of shows done like that. Did you have to rehearse any of the projects or any of the things you were going to do, or did you just kind of? Oh yeah, there's many. I'm working through it. I'm there. Yes, it doesn't look like it, but boy, it's outlined and rehearsed, and then I'm thinking, knowing my experience about camera angles, where they can get, and how to show this. Because my job doing the show is simply delivering. This is television. Television is a close-up medium. My whole job was delivering good close-up shots to the cameras, to the close-up cameras, so they could get in there and get the shot. And that means holding it steady and turning it slowly and angling it so the light is going to catch it and the shadow is going to define it. That's a lot of practice. Then I show it to the camera, the crew. They'll see it, walk through it, and then we shoot it, and that's it. It's gone. Moving on, next show.
And you had a lot of guests on that show. In fact, I remember your daughters were on the show.
Yeah, they were part of it. Yeah.
Rachel
and Eleanor were both on.
Even in the intro, I seem to remember I don't know which daughter it was in the show. That was
There's Eleanor. Rachel's at the end there wearing dark sunglasses.
Right. That's the one
on the bench. Yeah, that's Rachel now. Of course, she's a webmaster for the university in Chapel Hill now. So she's got.
And your other daughter is
Eleanor
a musician.
Is a musician in Asheville, yes. And Eleanor Underhill has done great as a musician. So the showbiz family carries on.
That's great. And I think Eleanor helped out with one of your books or several of your books.
She did. She illustrated the last book I did, and very nice to have that. So I think she just got her royalty check a few days ago, which always helps.
Yeah.
Good to be a musician with getting royalty checks from her illustrations. So
how do you like that?
It was a treat.
Do you enjoy the book writing process? Because you've got a number of books. I don't know how many you have.
Yeah. I hope to do more, but my gosh, does it take energy and dedication. You got to show up at the page every day and be there and stare at it until blood comes out of your forehead. It is hard to do a good job. And hope I still have the energy to do that, to do some more writing. But do I enjoy it? Yeah, the research is great. I enjoy it a lot. Very proud of the one. I have a book on how to say, it's called Engaging Intelligence. It was published as Khrushchev's Shoe, but it's about free choice learning and how you engage people with subjects they didn't know they were interested in. So you watch Nova on public television. You don't know what it is. Maybe you didn't know, but if they do it right, you're going to be interested in that subject. Well, there's a whole psychology under that, and it's been fascinating to me. So that was one. Yeah. Now, how about you? You got a book in the works?
No, I've been asked to do some books a couple of times, and I get... it makes me a little bit nervous because so many of the authors I've talked to have always kind of said, I don't know if I'd want to do it again. So I kind of turns me like, I don't know if I really have that kind of energy in me.
Yes, and you got to wonder about books as a medium. And, who has books, Last time you read a book, who read a book?
Yeah, and a lot of times books are now consumed as audiobooks, which doesn't really work well for a woodworking book. You could make it work probably. With you have plenty of anecdotes. And, yeah.
Oh man. Well, it's just everything. It's all a moving target. The way the media changes and what each format expects. I just don't know. Don't know what to say. I have friends who are working on books, and I, torture them by asking them, "How is the book coming?" And oh God, yeah, it'll take you years. I mean, it's years of work and dedication to do that, and then you don't know. You don't know how that's going to turn out, but you've done it. You've done it.
It's a labor of love.
Out, so yeah.
Would you consider yourself primarily an educator, an entertainer, or a woodworker?
Oh yes.
Which comes top?
Yes.
I forgot historian and philosopher.
Let me tell you. Yeah, no. I would tell you something. Here's a. Because I enjoy it all, but I did have something funny. I was working at one of these woodworking conventions, and I was over there doing something, and a young fella came up and he was watching me work, and who knows what I was doing, but I was working away, and I had the things I was making there, and he looked at me, and I could see this confusion on his face, and he finally looked at me and said, "Oh, I get it." And he looked up at me with a smile. He said, "You're not good. You're just on television." I said, oh my gosh. I said, well, then my secret's out, I guess. And he was suddenly so embarrassed because he realized what he had said. It's so funny.
I'm not a woodworker. I just play one
I know
on
that
TV.
doesn't answer you. Yeah, exactly. I'm not a craftsman, but I play one on television. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But enjoy them all. That whole matrix. Why would you take out any part of it? So it's like being a good. It's odd, but being a good cake. Which ingredient do you want to take out and say? Are you primarily sugar, flour, or blueberries, or what would you take out? The history, the entertainment, the craftsmanship. I want to say it's tough because, I got to work fast. Everything I do has got to be done in 23, 27 minutes, 27 seconds or something. Got to be done. And you can't go back and tune it up. You got to keep moving. And so those are habits that and I look at stuff I did before I started doing so much television work. And gosh, it's good. It's really good work. I said, man, I used to be good. Now, part of that is, let me say, back in the day, we had low-def television. And so I was a heck of a good woodworker. Now they've gone to high def, and high def is not your friend, let me tell you.
It shows every mistake.
I look at it and say, man, I know. They say, oh, God, this guy's crap. He used to be good. What happened? Well, it's because high def is not your friend. Oh, well.
Did you know that your show was going to be a hit show right from the start? Was there a moment where was there a moment where you thought, wow, we've really got something here?
I'll tell you that. My wife, Jane, has been in show business. She's in summer stock and did a lot of, was, a performer, and recognition was a big thing. And we were in Times Square once, going somewhere, and somebody came up to me in Times Square and said, "Hey, you're Roy Underhill. I love your show and all this stuff." And my wife, who's had a career in acting, she said, "God, I've never hated you so much as I have this moment." so which beats you being funny, but no, let me just say, I've always believed in it. I believed in it from the beginning, and that it was a good thing. And I also saw there was a track record on it. You look at what Julia Child did with the French chef. Here is French cuisine, which is foreign to the American audience. Well, here's historic, traditional woodworking, which is foreign to the contemporary audience. But they're both, French chef, she's doing cooking, which is familiar. So you got the foreign and familiar balance. I know about cooking. I know about food. I know what an egg is. But here she's doing it with French. So it's a twist on the familiar. And the same with the Woodwright shop. We have familiar woodworking that people know. Here's a saw, here's a chisel, we got that. But there's a twist on it. This is a historic and all handwork thing. So I believed in that, I saw the formula work, if I may say, call it a formula. The recipe. There you are.
Right. Who were some of your most memorable guests that you had on the show? Is there one guest that you could have on?
Everybody remembers.
Is there one guest that you would say, I want you on again and again as much as possible?
Oh, well, Chris Schwartz and I always have fun. And Peter Follensby is just such a gas, but everybody's great. But these are the two of the most recent folks. And people are always getting, quoting back to me things that Chris Schwartz said with me on the show. And Peter, and of course, Mary May doing her carving. Old friend Peter Ross, blacksmith. We both worked at Colonial Williamsburg together. And working with him is just great. We've worked together since that very first season of the Woodwright shop, and still do. So that's been great. It's, there's a learning curve with that, working with a guest. people say, it say, shut up, Roy, let this person talk. Well, that's hard. And thank you for the feedback. Yes, I'll do better. Also, people say, you're putting your hands all over the stuff they're doing. Why are you doing that? Well, it's because if a guest doesn't have that innate understand, or just constant understanding of holding something still and turning it so that the close-up camera can get it, if they wave it around while they're talking, there's no close-up going to happen. So I have to grab their hand and kind of hold it because we got one shot at this. And so there's all kind of things that happen when you have a guest that you look like you're being a jerk. You're not.
There's a certain irony right now that right outside in my neighbor's house, there's like a guy working with power tools and making a lot of noise.
I hear it. Is that what that is?
It's like it never happens, but here it is. Usually I'm the guy making the noise.
Man!
They always it's time it whenever I need to be on camera or use a microphone. There's a sound going, so I'm going to have to go over there and say, Roy Underhill says, get out that handsaw and put that
Shut
thing
up.
away. But, shut up. We're trying to do a podcast here, damn it. Oh, man.
Well, I know, I tell you, if they were hand mortising with mallet and chisel, it'd be just as loud, though. So there's lots of noise you can make.
It's a different type of loud, though. It's not like it's like a handsaw, somebody pounding with a mallet. I don't want to say it's a pleasing sound, but it's not a shrill, screeching sound that this is making. It sounds like they have a circular saw against sheet metal or something. I don't know what's going on.
Ooh, and they might. That might be what it is.
I don't know. Do you ever meet do you ever see several generations of people who have watched your show? Because my dad and I used to watch your show together, and this was when I was probably 18, 19 years old, and it was like weekly viewing. It was a set thing that we did.
Fun.
It was one of those kind of bonding moments. And he's 86. I'm actually going to visit him next week for his birthday. And whenever we talk about whenever we talk about woodworking, it's inevitable your show comes up because we always like to kind of relate things that we remember from the show. It's like that. But I bet you've met people who have here's a picture of me when I was little, and here's a picture of my son and my grandson who also watched the show. That's crazy.
Well, that's a big that's a phenomenon that I did not anticipate, and it's just been so gratifying to see folks come in and say, "Oh, I used to sit in my grandfather's lap, and when I was a little boy, and we would watch you, and my grandfather would tell me what you were doing, and what he thought was going to happen." And of course, that was back when there were many fewer choices of things to watch. So, you didn't have so many alternatives. Some people had 3 or 4 channels on television, and that was it for external entertainment coming in on a screen. So I see these folks now, and they're adults, and it's what, but they see me and they see the school, and we talk about it, and they're making that connection again. They're looking for that connection. They say, "Oh, I have such good feelings because, that's when my dad and I were together. We would have this time to watch the show." And that's what I feel about the same thing with the traditional woodworking. Putting a saw in your hand that's sharp and working again is a revelation and a connection that people are missing. So just like they're missing their missing granddad and that time, and nostalgic for it, and remembering it fondly. I think there's something in everybody that remembers deeply, fondly, even if they've never done it, in this lifetime, working with their hands and making things out of wood.
Is there another season of the show coming up? I know with
no, we're done doing the broadcast for a while. Yeah, so we'll see, but who knows? I used to watch when I was a kid. I loved watch Mr. Wizard, And Mr. Wizard would do science. And well, he came back on Nickelodeon and did Mr. Wizard the World. And it was great. So who knows? Maybe get a second act and, and all of this. But now I'm going to go out. I'll have my people talk to them.
Yeah,
next
go out
door.
and talk to this guy. It's like, of all times, you got to be doing this thing right now.
Yeah. At the school, we have loud motors, because there's a bar behind us, and we have loud motorcycles show up out front. And I always joke with one of the students, say, go tell those people their motorcycles are too damn loud.
Right. Exactly. Go out there shaking your fist
rough-looking
at
crowd out
kids.
front.
Get off my lawn.
Good luck.
Right.
Oh,
you know, since you've got so many years on PBS, what do you see as the future of PBS? Because it's kind of, it's getting harder and harder to even find those shows unless they're posted online somewhere.
I don't know. It changed so much, and we always had played by rules from 1979. On PBS, which was, none of these sponsor things, the brand, whatever, getting money from people whose tools you were using on the show, or if you'd like a measured drawing or this recipe, or go to ways to commercialize it.
It was woodworking beyond the norm, you might say.
I
think you're quoted as saying
I did say that, but that was mean, and I'm sorry to be mean.
I thought that was a funny comment, though.
Really. Yeah. Well, yeah, that was uncalled for.
But it is amazing that your show survived with so long without any kind of sponsorships and everything.
Well,
that's everything now is.
Yeah, I said we were too non-commercial for PBS, even because everything was supposed to pay for. And I resented this in one sense. Cultural, they say, oh, well, you're a how-to show. You can get a sponsor and plug their products or whatever, and you can do somehow commercialize this and monetize this. There are cultural programs and educational programs on PBS that are not required to do that. They're there for their own sake, part of the public, the mission of PBS. And I said, well, I think we are too. We are culture with a small c. We are what people did with their lives and their hands and their brains to make the material world of that time. And this is not a commercial venture, folks. I'm using tools. The company I'm working with went out of business in 1881, or it was a blacksmith in Sussex or something who made this hatchet. I don't know. Don't you say? I told you, don't get me started. I'll start ranting and raving.
Okay, let me talk a little bit about some woodworking then. We can talk
right.
a little woodworking.
Oh, there's that. There is that, yes.
What do you think is the biggest challenge you see facing new woodworkers? Somebody who comes to yours, well, I would assume people come to your school kind of know a little bit about woodworking, but somebody kind of interested in woodworking, let's go, the one fundamental concept they need to know.
No, well, I give you two things. Just understanding the grain and following the grain and being really sensitive to this textured and structured material. So watching the grain with hand tools is a big thing. Knowing the principles that allow you to engage with the grain productively as well. But let me say, these are also, well, I can keep going. There's lots of things. One is feedback, tightening the feedback loop. You got to watch say like you're sawing. And I have occasionally have folks who will, say, oh, look, I don't know, the saw ran off. Well, what do you mean? You were there. I mean, I didn't, you're standing there and the saw ran off. You kept sawing when there was an error creeping in. And it's like, you're riding a bicycle and say the bike fell over. Well, no, you fell over on the bike because you didn't correct quick enough the error. So one thing is just tightening that feedback loop with every stroke of the tool. You're looking and evaluating fast and adjusting the next stroke to adjust to that. So just like on a bicycle, you're always adjusting, and it's close. You don't wait till you're 45 degrees to the ground to say, "Oh, I better do something," or the bike ran off on me. But there's one other element that's critical to this. Strength. You can know the technique of sawing. You can know the mallet and chisel or planing. All these things that require muscles to do. But unless you keep doing it, you won't develop the muscles that you need to accomplish it with control. If you're working at the limit of your strength on these things, you haven't got anything left over for control. You're just trying to survive this torture. So you got to do it enough to build the strength. Say, so you know how to cross-country ski. I understand it. Yeah, okay, I got it down. Now do it enough to where you build the muscles and the control becomes instinctive and it starts to be fun. That you can't do in a class. I can't bring somebody in and have them develop a lot of musculature to do these tasks in a couple of days. But so gratifying. We just did this lathe building class, and I overheard someone talking to someone else. One of the students was talking to someone else. They said, "Man, when I started here 5 days, I could not saw straight. Look at me now." And, oh gosh, it can happen. So the practice and developing the muscles and that control is always essential. You can't get that instantly. There is no royal road to woodworking. There you are.
Maybe that's why so many people are just drawn to power tool woodworking, because it's you put a fence along the table saw and you're going to get a straight cut. There's no finesse really involved in that.
Yeah,
as long as you can keep your fingers out of the way, you're pretty much good to go. And maybe there's an element of frustration on starting in using a plane and using a handsaw that needs to be overcome. But hey, if you can do that in 5 days and you start to feel comfortable, that's not too bad.
Not too bad. No, it'll take. It's worth learning. I have the folks. They built the lathe, so essentially they built a violin. That's different from playing it. Now they got to learn how to use this thing and do the proper turning. So you got to put in the time for this to work. That's what you reminded me of. Remember Shopsmith? I don't know that they're still around. It was this combination machine, basically a lathe.
That's how I learned woodworking on a Shopsmith. My dad had one when I was 12.
Yeah. They were, and I've used. They had one at a place I was teaching once, and so we used it. But I think it was them. They used to have an ad that would say, "Shopsmith, the skill is in the machine." The skill is in the machine. Oh. And they just, this is a great, and I thought, who the hell came up with that? What? That's the thing. The skill it's not in you. No, it's in the machine. Don't worry. Well, I kind of want to develop skill. That's like, say, you've got whatever, these little Casio pianos, and they have songs recorded in them. I'll press the button and it'll play the song. Come on. That's good for a minute, but it's not what we're here for.
Yeah, sometimes I'll hear people mention to me, well, there's a much faster way of doing this procedure in certain procedure. And I always think, well, if speed is your goal, then sure. If you're in a production line and you need to get this stuff out and make a living, but I think for a lot of us, the process is the goal in a way.
It is, and you said a very important thing. If you're in business, of course you're going to use the power equipment. That's what it's there for. If you're doing this for your own enjoyment, this is something to try and expand your skills and treat it as a discipline. I mean, there are faster ways to get fish than fly fishing, but you get into it and it's a wonderful endeavor and a thing to learn something with a great tradition and value to it beyond getting a lot of fish. So I can get you fish. Oh man. I just.
What's the most frustrating technique for new hand tool woodworkers to kind of grasp?
Wow.
Is it using a chisel or a plane?
No, the plane. Well, you got to learn to adjust the plane, and you got to know what a sharp plane is. So maybe that's the key. Let's just say not having the sharp tools to work with, not knowing when the tool needs your attention, that chisel is not sharp and not performing like it should. The plane is not adjusted properly, or the saw is not sharp. So things like that, I think, are frustrating. They work with things that require attention, maintenance, and sharpening, and that will frustrate more people than anything else, I think. I'll come over and say, well, no wonder. Here, give me that. I'll touch up that edge. And then they go, oh, wow, I see it now. Yeah, that's it. But sharpness, it's like Archie Bunker said about beer. You can't buy it. You can only rent it.
Right.
So it's going to be gone soon. So you got to keep putting it, got to keep paying that bill.
Do you have any thoughts on this? There's kind of this romanticization of Japanese woodworking right now, and these hand tools.
Yeah, that's great.
Kind of, they work on the pull stroke, and the joinery is all different, and
it's wonderful.
Is that something you've explored?
Oh yes, and I enjoy seeing it so much. It's not, but. I try to explain what I'm interested in or doing. I'm interested in lots of things, but doing with this project is old music on original instruments. So we're doing English joinery. I'm doing it with English Anglo tools, and so nothing against these. It's just Japanese saws are wonderful, and the tradition is brilliant. But I'm trying to get people to do the original instruments, and that's what I'm on. So I have a reputation for confiscating Japanese saws and tape measures.
Really?
And because you use a folding rule. And definitely dovetail marking gauge. Somebody comes in with a thing that says hardwood, softwood, dovetail marking gauge. That goes into it's like the elementary school teacher. I've got a drawer full of things that I've confiscated. I give them back at the end of the semester.
It's a magnetic dovetail jig.
Oh yeah, things like that. Oh come on, give me that. And it's just also how shall I say? You got to have an attitude in anything, and so part of it is what I'm doing is having that, and that's what makes it fun. You're in a place where it's not a free for all, where it does have some kind of rules and boundaries. Otherwise, it's as they say, tennis without a net. Yeah. You don't have.
You're just hitting your balls around.
Discipline, just hitting the ball around, right? You need a net for the game to be interesting. You got to hit it over the net, and same. You don't have to, but that's that game. And same with this. So, God Almighty, love the Japanese saws. They're brilliant, particularly when they're new. Man, they cut like a dream. I'm not, but not at the school. That's not what I'm teaching. A friend of mine said, using the Japanese tools to do this English joiner is like stir frying grits. You know, you're mixing modes, and it's fine, but that's not what we're about.
Is there any woodworking skills that you personally would like to explore even more, or something that you?
I'm hoping, yeah. I admire cooperage, and it's more doable than wheelwrighting, which I also enjoy greatly. And I think we look at having a cooperage at the school. Have some folks come in to. We're still working on that. That's why I'm being hesitant. But I think these are grand trades, and I like these kind of woodworking trades a lot. These more utilitarian ones, the wheelwrighting, the boat building, cooperage, and the building. You know, we build a lot of workbenches and lathes and machines and stuff like that. I don't turn out a lot of furniture, fine furniture stuff. Plenty of folks doing that. So that's what I like. Yeah.
Where do you see your legacy is heading? Do you see yourself as an educator, craftsman, woodworker? I think. I'll explain it this way. I had I was working, and in graduate school, and my instructor, Dr. Phil Potts, she was wonderful, and that she came by my desk where I was studying these aspects of wood technology or plant physiology or something, and I had my carpenter's belt there with a square and my saw and everything and my hammer, because I was working carpentry after I left that. I had had a job and was building. And she looked down and she saw those tools and she said, "Are those yours?" And I said, yeah. And she said, "Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Because look at you. You are a complete human being. Here you are working with your books and your study there. And you've got your tools and your hands and your hand skills. That's wonderful. Now, people will try and put you down for that, for working with your hands. Don't ever let anybody do that to you." I'm like, whoa, we're rolling back at my desk. So if anything, what can anybody want to be remembered more for is to, and hope for, is to just be that kind of complete human being, working with your hands, working with your brain, with your muscles, with other people and by yourself, working with nature and creating with nature. If you be all of those things, that's, I think, what you can rest in peace. There you go. Well, Roy, I want to thank you first for joining me today, but more importantly, I sincerely want to thank you for all the inspiration, education, entertainment you've given me over many, many years.
Well, Steve, thank you so much. And I've enjoyed talking with you, and I hope everyone listening gets a chance to talk with you some more and hear what a great conversation. Thanks.
There's going to be a spike in hand saw sales coming up real soon. I predict it.
We'll tell that.
Yeah. Hey,
all right.
Hey, I want to thank all of you for listening to this episode of the Woodworking Talk Show. I'll see you next time.
And may the grain be with you all.